Trade reports are really starting to escalate surrounding the Milwaukee Bucks and Bobby Portis, as his stretch of disappointing play has continued. Fans are calling for Portis to be traded. We have some new reports on that front. We're going to discuss what John Horst's plan is ahead of what's going to be a very busy next few weeks for the Bucks. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But folks, before we get into it, if you're a part of the 83% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Bucks content. So if you're enjoying the Bucks videos every single day, you're enjoying all the content I'm producing, hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. Thank you guys for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to go over today. So obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday played the Boston Celtics. Things are really circulating, escalating, surrounding specifically Bobby Portis and his future in Milwaukee. And it really stems from the fact that he hasn't been playing great as of late, but I'm just not entirely sold, and fans aren't entirely sold on his fit with the Bucks going forward. An article dropped going over 3 players the Bucks should replace Bobby Portis with by the NBA trade deadline. Now, let's start with number 1. We have a bunch of players to go over here, and kind of just a roundtable of some of the reports that have come out. So let me know down below with each of these targets I talk about and suggest, and the reports, what you think or who would be your number 1 target. So Larry Nance Jr., Atlanta Hawks. There's a lot to like about Larry Nance Jr. It all starts with his defensive versatility. 6'8", capable of playing both the power forward and center positions while guarding anyone on the floor. Massive edge on Portis in that regard. On defense, obviously, but Nance is also the better athlete, and the Bucks have found success relying on athleticism lately. Most notably thinking about guys like Ajax and even AJ Green, who's not super athletic, but has really showed up defensively. Nance has not been in Atlanta's rotation, so it's reasonable to think he could be available. Swapping Portis for Nance might not be the ultimate needle-tipping move, but it could be unquestionably given the player who simply fits better. And this is a very interesting one. So, thinking about Larry Nance Jr., and in the meantime, I'll kind of show you some Bobby Portis highlight or lowlights, I guess, from yesterday's game, just to kind of discuss how it could kind of work here. So I think with Larry Nance Jr., he would provide some more athleticism specifically on defense. And obviously, rebounding, he's a very good rebounder, Bobby Portis is, as well as Larry Nance Jr., of course. And as you're kind of seeing in these highlights here, and these are some of the lowlights that I picked out from the game. Nothing too crazy necessarily, just some highlights in general from the game. He was shooting a lot of threes. He was hitting some, some were going down. But it gets interesting because Bobby Portis is a post. He scores a lot, in theory, in post-ups and things like that. But where Bobby Portis will really help, where Larry Nance really help, is guarding the guards. And we saw it in the first little clip there, and you saw when he was guarding, of course, Derek White. Having a guy like Larry Nance Jr., he'd be able to help you rebound. He would be able to help you get rebounds and defend better. Obviously, Bobby Portis had 18 boards yesterday. He was very solid on the glass. But 18 rebounds is very good. However, his defense, his lack of athleticism, all those things really play a big factor in what makes, a good bench power forward. And in this case for Bobby Portis, I think Larry Nance Jr. would be better defensively, obviously. A similar rebounder to a degree. Bobby Portis, you can argue, is a better rebounder, but I think in the system that the Bucks are running, you could argue that Larry Nance Jr. would be the better fit. I think that's a very possible and realistic scenario there. So I think adding a guy like Larry Nance Jr. in exchange for Bobby Portis would just be, provide some more identity to this backup unit. Because then you have, of course, Gary Trent Jr. off the bench. You have AJ Green off the bench. And then sliding into that power forward spot, you can have Larry, or even center spot, you can have Larry Nance Jr., who is going to be able to switch in the pick and roll and guard guys like Drew Holiday, guard guys like Derek White a lot more effectively. And that's going to be happening a lot, especially with the lack of defense that the Milwaukee Bucks have at this point, specifically with guards. I think being able to have a power forward off the bench that can switch easily onto these guards, especially when you're rocking your starting center, which is Brook Lopez. He can't guard guards that well. He did a fine job on Jason Tatum yesterday in the brief moments he had on him, but having another guy like Larry Nance could be very helpful. And it's intriguing thought. And let me know down below what your thoughts are on Larry Nance Jr. And I also want to touch on the second person on this list, which is Matisse Thybulle. Not a big man, we all know. He's a very elite defender. He's a 2-time all-defensive honoree who has made a living by taking on some of the toughest matchups. And we've seen AJ Green, Andre Jackson Jr., and Gary Trent Jr. be a very good, defensive backup guard pair, and in this case, Ajax starting. This one is a bit less exciting to me because I'm thinking about it from the sense of like the Milwaukee Bucks and where they currently stand. I don't think they need another defensive-minded guard. Gary Trent Jr., in theory, is supposed to be a defensive-minded guard. So you have Gary Trent Jr., you have Ajax, who has been starting games, and I would like to see him be more aggressive and just kind of battle down low. Battle offensively, get into the paint more, drive more. We saw in the preseason and summer league, like when Ajax is at his best, he's a very good slasher, but he's not being very aggressive. So it's getting a little bit interesting for a guy like Andre Jackson Jr. How much longer can you keep putting him in the starting lineup? Obviously, Chris Middleton's back. He's probably going to be the starter going forward. But as you look into the players you need to acquire at the deadline. I don't think Matisse Thybulle fits super well. Gary Trent Jr. has been good, really good lately. AJ Green has been solid. I think AJ Green gives you what Matisse Thybulle provides in the sense of nowhere near as good defensively, even though AJ Green has been a very capable defender. Matisse Thybulle is a specifically defensive-minded wing only, which is something that wouldn't really work in what the Milwaukee Bucks need right now. It's just not exactly what they need. So I'm not sold on Matisse Thybulle, but you would be buying low. His value's down. He's slated to return soon. He's coming off of an injury. It wouldn't be a huge gamble. But he, bringing aboard an all-defensive wing would make plenty of sense to beef up their defense. I agree, especially given the fact that their starting lineup lacks defense. Obviously, they've been starting Andre Jackson Jr. Once Middleton comes back, it lacks a little bit of defense. I just don't think that it's the play. I don't think, Matisse Thybulle makes a ton of sense here. That being said, let me know down below if you think Matisse Thybulle makes a ton of sense. I'm not completely sold on it. I much prefer Larry Nance Jr. I don't think they need to add another guard. And finally, there's a couple articles dropping surrounding Bobby Portis and Robert Williams. And we've discussed Robert Williams a lot on this channel. You can see similar financial figure. While there were initial concerns about his injury, he's looked very good, averaging almost 2 blocks and a steal a game. He's only 27 years old. He is quite injury prone, but I think, again, he would give them just a huge bolt off the bench. The article uses the term a jolt of youth, athleticism, and defense at the center spot behind Brook Lopez, making the defense even more versatile due to his ability to switch on to players on all shapes and sizes. He simply offers the Bucks more than Portis on defense from an athletic standpoint, and the league dominated by speed and high-flying athletes that could help him. I agree with this. Again, you're looking at Robert Williams. He's exactly the type of big man that would fit this team, specifically in the backup spot. The only issue is Bobby Portis is a much better floor spacer. Robert Williams can't shoot the ball. But as you're looking at Bobby Portis, he can spread the floor. He can shoot the three, even though, of course, he had an off night yesterday to a degree. But, yeah, again, he went 4 for 15 in the game. But I think that at the point of where the Bucks are now, surrounding their, bench unit and things like that, I think Robert Williams or Larry Nance Jr., either of those guys, would just fit a lot better given what they need at the moment. And it's mainly because they do need rebounding, but they need athletic defense, and that is not something they have all the way across the board. Aside from, you could argue Taurean Prince, an athletic defender. Giannis is really their only athletic defender. That's a big. You have Gary Trent Jr., have some guys like that. But Robert Williams, he'd be able to protect the paint really well. Be a great pair alongside Brook Lopez, who can stretch the floor. So you could even run big lineups of Robert Williams and Brook Lopez when you're going up against those bigger teams. So there's a lot of different ways that Robert Williams would fit here. And again, Portis' recent, we've seen his games. He hasn't been great. The recent struggles have raised questions about his fit in the team. And as the team navigates their season, the forward struggles on both ends. His field goal percentage has not been good. We saw he hasn't been playing well. You saw in some of the highlights there that I showed you, he hasn't really been playing great basketball. He has been doing some things better. He's had games where he's better as of late, but I just don't think he fits into this current construction of the roster. But let me know down below ultimately what your thoughts are. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on the new, showing highlights while the video is going on, experimenting with that. So let me know down below if you made it this far, what your thoughts are. I'll respond to all those comments. So let me know. We'll see you guys later.